Good morning everyone. Today the topic of our discussion is composition, structure and function of proteins, which is like I have in last class told you about the lipids and about the carbohydrates. Now we are going to discuss about the proteins. So proteins basically are the main biomolecule of our cells, and they are formed after DNA when get transcribed into mRNA, and mRNA when get translated to proteins. So the genomic information which is present inside the DNA or on the DNA, when it get transcribed and translated, it forms the specific proteins. So proteins are basically, you can say, can be a photocopy of the genes which are being present on the genome or on the DNA of your cells. So each and every protein inside your body, they are either enzymes or hormones or some of the structural proteins are there. So proteins play a very important role in your physiological activity. That is why study of protein is very important. And you will surprised to know that at a particular time, for example, like just now, if you take just now or after 1 minute or 2 minutes, 3 minutes, so the total amount of protein which is expressed inside a cell, it differs. For example, if you take a time of 0 hours, right, 0 hours. At 0 hours, the total amount of protein expressed inside a cell is 5000. After 1 minute or 1 hour or 2 hours, the amount of protein and the type of protein expressed inside the cell will differ. Why it will differ? Because the cells keep on changing the functionality at each and every time period. For example, in your body, each and every time there are certain stimulus which is going on, which is trying to give that stimulus to your cells in order to express a particular type of protein. For example, in the plant cell, let's take an example of the plant cell. In plant cell, when in the daytime, the activity of photosynthesis occurs, right? So photosynthesis occurs basically inside the leaves. But all the part of the plant are involved in that process. Roots are absorbing water, right? They are pushing that water through phloem inside the leaves, right? And the starch which is produced inside the leaves are taken out and are stored inside the storage organism so that they can be carried out and can be used later on. Because whatever the food the plant prepare in the morning, carbohydrates they prepare in the morning time, they try to store them so that they can use them later on. So these all process goes side by side. So the cells which are working at the leaves have a different functions, and the cells which are working at the roots have different functions. So if you see the proteins which are expressed inside the cell of the leaves, you have some difference as compared to the proteins which are expressed inside the cell at the roots. For example, if you take the total protein and the type of protein, I am saying two things, total protein and types of protein which are present inside the root cell will be totally different to the total number of proteins and types of protein expressed inside the leaf cells. Take an example. In the leaf cells you will get glucoenzyme, okay, but you will not get in the roots. Can you get in the roots? No. So that is the difference and the beauty of the protein, because Rubisco is required in the leaves. So in the daytime, Rubisco is expressed in the leaves. So in the daytime, if you take out the leaves of the plant and take out the Rubisco, you will find its activity highest. In the daytime, if you take out the leaves of a plant and try to see that what is the activity and what is the amount of Rubisco, you will find it highest. But in night, you will find it lowest. So that is the protein. And how this happens? This happens through DNA, RNA, and then it comes to protein. So the stimulus of sun is the stimulus, comes from the plant start doing photosynthesis, the end product of photosynthesis is carbohydrate and then converts to starch, and that light stimulate Rubisco enzyme through DNA, RNA and then protein. So protein is an ultimate end product. Protein is an ultimate end product of any cell. We have DNA, everybody have DNA. Every plant, every bacteria, every virus, DNA or RNA is a genomic material, right? But that genomic material is stagnant until and unless some stimulus come and target it. When that stimulus come, that DNA and RNA get activated, they express into mRNA or transcriptomes, and then that transcriptomes express into and translate into proteins, and that protein is important. Take an example in COVID. The COVID virus was very infectious because of the protein present on their wall. The wall पे जो protein था, the protein present on the wall of the COVID bacteria, of the COVID virus, was the main infectious ligand which is causing the interaction with the human cells, epithelial cells. The COVID virus must have seen lot of spikes were there. Whatever spikes protein. So that spike proteins goes and bind with the epithelial cells of the human beings. We have epithelial cells in lungs, in the nasal cavity, on our body surface, this is all epithelial cells, right? So when the COVID virus comes, they go and bind their protein with the epithelial cells, and from there they go and engage inside the body of our human beings, and that cause infections. So this is a case of a virus. The same happens in plants and in bacteria and other organisms also. So why, that is why I emphasize that protein is very important. So it makes up about 15% of the cell. Can you imagine? 15% of the cell. Have many functions in the cell. Enzymes, you must be knowing that most of the enzymes are protein. Structure means like your hair, your body surface, your bones, they all have maximum amount of protein. Same with the plant also. Transport is also a very important role which is played by the protein. Like there are various transport proteins. Take an example in our body, hemoglobin. Okay? Hemoglobin is a very important protein that transports oxygen. Similarly, motor functions in plants also and in animals also. There are a lot of actin and myosin protein you must have heard. Everybody must have heard actin and myosin. Yes. They are proteins and they play a very important role in cell division. Okay. Then come the storage. Storage also, a lot of proteins are there which help in the storage. Similarly, there are in every expression of a particular gene, there are upstream and downstream regulators. If you will see a DNA, a whole DNA ATGC sequence, you will find that there are upstream and downstream regulators. These regulators are basically proteins. When they go and bind, these proteins when they go and bind with the DNA, they start activating the RNA polymerase or DNA polymerase in order to express a DNA or to transcribe a RNA. So these proteins also have a very important role in signaling. Receptors, I have told you in the class of carbohydrates that if you will see the membrane structure of any plant or human cells or in bacterial cells, you will find that there is a lot of galaxy of proteins and carbohydrates mixed together on the surface of the cells. So these proteins will basically help. There is protein and carbohydrate on the cell surface. Whenever any foreign organism is coming, they go and bind with each other. So this organism which is coming from outside, or any stimulus which is coming from outside inside the cell, they are going and bind with the ligand present on the surface of the cell. So this is the ligand and this is the receptor. They both are coming and binding together. So this is very specific also. In each and every cell, there are specific receptors. It never happens anything will come and bind with the cell. It never happens. How it happens? When any ligand have a specific structure, will come and bind with the specific receptors. So there is some matching should be there. At least 80 to 90% matching should be there. Like for example, you have two hands. If you want to join your hands, so because your fingers have this much space, right? So you will bring together and it will join each other. So that type of binding should be there in the ligand and the receptor. Receptors are always present on the cell surface. Keep in your mind, in any type of cell, plant cell, animal cell, bacterial cell, viral cell, receptors are present on the cells, surface of the cells. And ligand is the outside entity. Outside entity can be anything. It can be a particulate matter, it can be a virus, it can be a bacteria, it can be a parasite, it can be anything which can come and penetrate and can enter inside the cell. That is a ligand. For an example, take an example of bacteria, take an example of a plant. If any bacteria is affecting any plant, that bacteria will come and will interact with the surface of the plant. If it penetrates and binds with the ligand, with the receptor, it will go inside the cell. And when it enters inside the cell, it will start its own action of physiology, and that will ultimately result in the movement and in any type of alteration in the plant cell, which will affect the whole physiology of the plant. So that is the beauty of the receptor. Now the gene regulation, I have told you that there are various upstream, downstream affectors as well as regulators. Those all are proteins. For example, Tata box, you must have heard. Tata box are there. Everybody must have heard Tata box. Tata box are there. These are the sequence on the DNA, which when get regulated by some proteins, then only get activated. Right? So these regulators, they basically affect upstream and downstream expression of a particular DNA or transcription of a particular DNA. Right? Then it comes to special functions. What do you mean by special functions? Like some hormones are there, right? Just take an example, insulin. Insulin is a hormone, right? But it is a protein. So insulin is a protein hormone that you must have had diabetes. A lot of people have diabetes nowadays. So insulin is such a beautiful hormone which is basically a protein, and that regulates the control of glucose in our body. Okay, so it starts switching on. When the glucose level is high, insulin is high in the body. When glucose level is down, insulin is normal. But when diabetes comes, this thing get upside down. So that is the problem. Now comes that what is the structure. If you see, it comes to amino acid sequence. So you all must have heard about the amino proteins are made up of the amino acids, right? So these amino acids are either acidic or basic, or have an aromatic ring, or a neutral amino acids. So proteins are made of 20 amino acids linked by peptide bond. So there is a bond between the two amino acids, like CO when attached with the NH group, they formed a peptide bond, because each amino acid have NH group, right? Amino group. And when it attached with the carboxyl group, it forms a peptide bond. So the bond formed between two amino acids. The bond formed between the two amino acids are called as peptide bond. And these amino acids, when come in a chain, like 10 amino acids, 20 amino acids, 30 amino acids, they form a big chain having peptide bond with each other. So they form a chain of amino acids which form the basic structure of a protein. So the polypeptide backbone is a repeating sequence of NC. So what is NC? This is amino, this is carboxyl. And this, what is this? This is the peptide bond, right? The side chain or R group is not a part of the backbone or the peptide bond. So there are also certain side chain like carboxyl group or some aromatic group can be attached, like tryptophan. If you take an example of a tryptophan, it is an aromatic amino acid. So there is a benzene ring in the tryptophan, right? So the same way there are various amino acids in which sulfhydryl group or carboxyl group or amino group or this methyl group is attached, right? In the R region, this R group. But the backbone is NC, and NC. Means amino and carboxyl. But on the side R group, it may be hydroxyl group, it may be sulfhydryl, it may be anything. right? And that determines whether the amino acid is acidic or basic. If it is hydroxyl group, then it will behave like a basic. If it is carboxyl group, it will behave like an acidic, right? On the basis of that, the proteins amino acids are differentiated on the basis of acidic, basic, neutral, aromatic, right? And if a protein have more basic amino acids, that protein will become a basic protein. If a protein have more acidic amino acids, that protein will become an acidic protein. And if a protein have more of the glycine, then it will become a neutral amino acid, neutral protein, right? But it very rare happens in the cell. Most of the protein either behave basic or behave acidic. And now see, this is a simple example of glycine. You can see in the glycine that how these are the different types of bonds. These are the peptide bonds, and these bonds are being basically formed by the removal of the water molecule. So these are basically this red is the water molecule which is being removed from the formation of this particular peptide polypeptide backbone. Now see, these are the amino acids like aspartic acids, and you see you write the abbreviation of amino acid in 3 letters, like aspartic acid ASP, glutamic GLU, arginine ARG, and these are their symbols DERK NQSTY. So what you can do, that you can learn these symbols DER. Why I am saying to learn this? This is because whenever this is very easy to memorize. Like if anybody say aspartate, then you will say it is D, right? And now see, these are signified in different colors. This is blue, you will see it's aspartic and glutamic, right? D and E. Learn like this. D and E, DE is a acidic amino acid, right? Arginine, lysine, histidine, these are the positive. Asparagine, glutamine, serine, threonine and tyrosine, these have uncharged polar group, NQSTY, right? And these are basically the polar amino acids. Why they are called polar? Because they develop charge. So this is the basic of different types of proteins. There are also basic aromatic amino acids like tryptophan. If you have to estimate the protein inside a cell in the laboratory, so basically these tryptophan, arginine and these amino acids play a very important role because they have a big ring, benzene ring. So whenever you use any type of test, like there are only 2 tests which are very sensitive for protein estimation. One is Lowry method and another is Bradford method. So Lowry method is basically, the principle is that cuprous ion changes to cupric ion by the addition of falling qualitative reagent. In the protein they make, basically if there is a protein inside your cell and you add cuprous ion, it will change to cuprous ion, it will change to cupric ion. And when falling qualitative reagent will be added, it will become absolute brown in color, and you will take its OD by using UV visible spectrophotometer, and on the basis of that you will estimate that what is the quantity of protein inside a cell, right? The second method is Bradford method. Bradford method basically depends on a dye called as Kumasi Brilliant Blue. Kumasi Brilliant Blue R250. Kumasi Brilliant Blue R250. That dye basically bind with arginine and lysine residue of the protein. I have told you that each protein have amino acid sequence. So when we use Kumasi Brilliant Blue, they go and bind with the arginine and lysine residue present inside the protein, and by binding they give a blue color. And that blue color, for example, let's say if there is any protein any cell which have 10 proteins, and that 10 proteins have 20 arginine and 20 lysine, and these 20 arginine and 20 lysine when bind with the Kumasi brilliant blue, they give a amount of color, right? And if there is a protein Y which have 40 amino acids, 40 arginine and 40 lysine, right? And when they bind with the Kumasi brilliant blue, their color development will be comparatively higher than 21. So in this way you will see that this sample 2 have a higher protein content as compared to sample 1. Why? Because sample 2 have more content of arginine and lysine in their protein backbone, right? Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Now, since the light have gone, so we will continue with the blackboard. So now the next thing is this, that once we estimate a protein, then and we have understood that these proteins are made of the peptide bond, they have different types of amino acids, and they have then we comes with the structure. What is the structure of proteins? So proteins are divided on basically 3 structures: primary, secondary, tertiary and quaternary. 4. Primary, secondary, tertiary and quaternary. Why primary? Primary, whenever if there is anything very simply aligned, like NC bond is aligned and there is one horizontal structure, it is called as primary structure. In secondary structure, we have beta pleated sheet structure, in which there is a criss-cross alignment of the amino acids, okay, like parallel and anti-parallels are going together. One side the proteins is going in this direction, another side is going in this direction. When the 2 sheets are aligning with each other, they form a secondary structure. Okay, so this type of structure is called a secondary structure when 2 chains come together, right? Now come the tertiary structure. In tertiary structure, there is a little bit more complications, like there are certain hydrophobic bonds and hydrophilic bonds, and hydrogen bonds are formed inside the amino acid sequence. And secondly, in tertiary structures, domains are formed, right? There are different domains. Previously, we are seeing in primary and secondary that there is only NC in primary, but in secondary, NC are going either parallel or anti-parallel and aligning together. But in tertiary, we have formed the domain structures. Domain means there are certain protein bound here, certain protein bound here, certain protein bound here, certain protein bound here, and these are all coming together. Okay, so they are forming a domain which are being aligned with the help of hydrogen bonds, with the help of van der Waals force, with the help of hydrophobic bonds, right? So these type of structure which are formed are called as tertiary structures. Then comes the quaternary structure. Quaternary structure is like a hemoglobin, right? Hemoglobin is a very complex, it have a pyridoxine ring inside the center, and all the poriforming rings are going all around. So when they loop inside each other, they form different loops and different domains. These loop and align together, they form the quaternary structure, right? So from primary to quaternary, the complexity of the protein is increasing. Why? Because the function of the protein is increasing and is becoming more complicated. If you see a protein like collagen or a protein like keratin, all we have keratin, everybody have here.
Yes.
Okay, everybody have keratin. So keratin have a very normal structure. Either it has a primary amino acid or more complicated can have a secondary one. But if you see insulin and hemoglobin, they have a tertiary and a quaternary structure. Why? Because insulin have a more complicated role. It is expressed inside the pancreas. It regulates the insulin, the glucose of the body, and the hemoglobin is a very important biomolecule that causes the transport of the oxygen inside the body. And in the plant cell also, if you see the rubisco, it have got a quaternary structure, right? Which is like, because it has got a very complex role to play inside the photosynthesis, right? So this is the structure form of the proteins, that these proteins are differentiated in different types of category on the basis of, first basis is the bonding. You all must, I have told you that the main bond is peptide bond, but peptide bond will play only in catenation. Catenation means, because we know that carbon and nitrogen is there, when carbon are coming and making a change, it is called catenation. And but here we have nitrogen also, right? So the backbone is carbon nitrogen, this is peptide bond. But when we go for, like, we have a different type of alignment, we have a different loops, different alignments, different type of structures, then we go for secondary, tertiary and quaternary. And it all depends on the function of the protein. All the simple proteins like myoglobin, you must have heard myoglobin, right? Or your collagen or your keratin, these are simple proteins. So they have a simple structure, but hemoglobin, insulin, they have a complicated form of, or some hormones also, right? So this is about the structure of the proteins. Now the second aspect is, which we have to study, is the functions. What are the functions of protein? So in initial slide I have told you that they have a very diversified type of functions. But the main function of protein inside the plant cell is to regulate the physiology. Physiology means physiology and metabolism. Okay, these are the two very interrelated words. Inside a cell, always there is a activity going on. Activity in the sense, either cell is trying to produce energy, or cell is trying to have storage of the food, or cell is trying to take out some of the waste material from itself, or cell is trying to repair itself. So every time each cell has certain activity going on all round the clock. Although we are sleeping, although we are saying that it's daytime, it's night time, plant is standing, but the cells are working 24/7 in which is 365 days, right? Every time each cell is working 24 hours into 7 into 365. No cell is taking rest. Why? Because there is certain functions going inside the cell, and these functions are basically being carried out by the proteins, right? Just take an example. The first function which is being done by the proteins are basically the regulation of this, we can say that production of ATP. The production of ATP is important because it is called as a currency of energy. So in plant cell, if you will see, you will find that glycolysis, TCA cycle is happening, right? Photosynthesis is happening. Okay. So these functions needs input of certain biomolecules. Like example, in TCA they take pyruvate as a starting material, and in the glycolysis they also change glucose to certain molecules, right? So in each every step there is either phosphorylation or reduction is happening. So these are regulation and the enzymes involved. You must have seen a lot of enzymes in each and every step. So these enzymes are basically the proteins, right? So in the production of energy, because you must be very clear that all the living organism on this planet, either it's bacteria or it's plant or it's human or it's fungi or anything which is living, they can only live until and unless there is a source of energy. Without the source, and the source of energy is ATP. Without ATP, either you draw it from any chemical also, I am not saying that you draw it from photosynthesis. There are certain bacteria which draw it from sulfur, but it is required. Without it, you cannot sustain for long on this planet. And for the production of this ATP energy, there is also a production of oxygen, right? Oxygen is very important because oxygen is the main component of this planet, and you all must be knowing that oxygen is around 23% on this environment, and these oxygen 23% is being produced by the plants and certain algae which are present inside the ocean. Okay, so these are very important aspects. That how this happens because whenever the sunlight, which has a power in order to stimulate the grana of the plant cell, so that they can stimulate and can produce certain types of enzymes which can cause the synthesis of glucose and carbohydrate as well as ATP and oxygen. So this is the role of protein only. The protein is playing. Now the second function is this, that whenever any transport is happening in plant also, if there is some transport, for example, if there are transport of certain enzyme should happen from leaves to tip of the bud, or from the leaves to the flower. So for example, we must have heard auxin, gibberellin, cytokinin. You must have heard about it. So these are basically the hormones, right? They have a different types of, but they have some amino acids based as in their structures, right? Although they are not completely protein, but they have certain amino acids or certain carbon associated rings in their structures. So they also play a very important role in the transport of the biomolecules inside a particular plant cell. Then comes structure. Structure means all ever who is sitting on this room, or all the plants which is there on this earth, they have certain structure. Some are tall, some are small, some are very thorny, some are very like Mimosa pudica, you take an example. If you touch it, they will just group down, right? So why this happens? This happens because the nature has formed each and every entity in order to make them protective, make them more defensive. Every organism on this planet is defensive. Nobody is offensive. We never attack. We always have a defense. And that defense means immune system. Defense means immune system. All the plants have immune system. Same is with bacteria and same is with virus. Nature has made each and organism protect yourself, don't attack. So whenever you pick a plant, you prick a leaf, or you prick a flower, you are thinking that you are picking a flower and smelling it and throwing it outside, right? You are very happy that you are picking a flower, you are picking a leaf. But do you realize that you are harming a plant? You are harming its immune system. That plant has to activate and it helps to recover, and they try to recover their wear out. For example, if anybody comes and just break your hand, what you will do? You will go to a doctor, or you will put some malham, or you will put some type of ointment so that you can get recovered. The same way the plant is there. So plant have their immune system, and that immune system is basically regulated by the proteins, right? The same is with bacteria also, right? So in plant also these proteins play a very important role in the immune system. In human also, if you will read the human immunology, you will see that lot of antibodies are all our proteins, right? In plant also, if you will see Mimosa pudica, people think that they are touching it is called chui mui and it's drooping down. It's just a prevention methodology they are following. They are preventing themselves. They have pulvinus, and the fragility gets loose and they get drooped down. So this is all the, what is this? This is just the immune system of the plant. Plants are very sensitive, plants are emotional. Nowadays, the scientists are working on the emotional intelligence of the plant. If you just talk to the plant, you will feel that they are talking to you. Or just take an example, keep yourself alone at a place where there is no plant, and keep yourself at a place where there are a lot of plants. Then you will feel that quality of your happiness and your life will be different. If you live inside like if you go to your village, most of you must be belonging to village. If you go to village, you will find that naturally there are a lot of trees and openness. You feel more happy and more enjoyable as compared to if you roam in Gorakhpur. Everywhere the trees are cutting and there is only roads and lot of vehicles. They are spelling out all smoke. So you like to live with trees or you like to live with smoke? So most of the people, I think, like to live with the living entity. Living entity is like plants, humans, animals. Why you just put everybody, I have seen lot of people or lot of young chaps, they keep some pet animals at their house because that is a living organism. That is a living organism. Although it cannot speak your language, but they have an emotional intelligence. The same is with plants. If you just plant some pots or some plant in your home, you will always feel that देखिए पानी है कि नहीं, plant की सूट तो नहीं है. There is some relationship, right? And plant also, if you don't give water, it just root down. Or if there is a lot of sunlight, the plant feel more stressed. So you also feel bad. So that is the emotional intelligence of the plant, and that emotional intelligence is always resulted by proteins. Like in humans, we think that we are crying, right? Or we feel that if somebody is dead, we feel very disheartened and we cry and we have a lot of panic things occurs with us. But do you think that this is because of our emotions? And these emotions are being regulated by proteins. I have worked a lot in America on cognition. Cognition means you observe something, your mind analyzes, then it gets interpreted in a form of protein. Your brain store it or discard it, and then your brain take action that you have to cry, you have to slap a person, you have to run, or you have to keep yourself away. So this is the called as cognition. If you take a person who has gone insane or become pagal, they cannot do these things, but a sane person can do it. The same happens in plants. If you take a healthy plant, the type of reactions and the type of productivity the healthy plant is giving cannot be given by an infected plant. When you go to a grocery, when you go to a vegetable market, or you go to any farmer's market, right, to purchase palak. You go now for purchasing palak or gobi. So what you see? You see the quality of the vegetable or the quality of the leaves. You see or not? So that quality is being made because of the plant own system, not by you. And that involves the structure and other type of proteins which are being expressed by the plants. You all must be eating spinach, or you all must be eating palak, or you must be eating different types of broccoli in your houses, right? But do you know that the quality of the vegetable or the quality of the fruits or the quality of any type of entity, it all depends on the environment and on the plant, its own physiology and metabolism, right? If the environment is not good, you cannot grow lychee in Gorakhpur. You cannot grow lychee in Gorakhpur, but you can grow lychee in Pokhara and in Kathmandu. Why? Because in Pokhara and Kathmandu there is a very good environment, lot of humidity is there, lot of rainfall, very temperate climate. In morning it's cold, in nights it's cold, in afternoon it's hot. So it's good. Muzaffarnagar also you can grow lychee. But in Gorakhpur you cannot grow lychee. What you can grow in Gorakhpur, you can grow mango, you can grow other type of. So this all things, all the structure and function of a protein depends on the environment. If your environment is not good, if the environment is not conducive, the plant will have to be in a stress condition. And in stress condition also, each organism on this planet express stress protein. There is one protein called stress protein. Heat shock proteins, HSP90, HSP60, these are called as stress protein. These stress proteins are released when the plant is under stress. For example, let's say flood has come, you have planted rice and flood has come and all the rice has grown down. What will happen? Will rice have to survive now? And what it will do? It will just produce stress protein. Only that rice will survive, or the that sapling will survive, which have a good amount of stress protein. All those which cannot produce stress protein will die. Same happens in human. If I give a slap to this girl, she will fall down, means she do not have a stress protein. And if I give a slap to this girl, she will resist. Why? Because she has got more stress protein. So I am saying it's a resistance. For somebody exam comes, they get very much stressed. What I will do, how I will write, I will get failed this and that. But somebody get resistance, they just perform their exam and they do better. Okay? So this is now the conclusion of all these things. So you just go and try to compile all that I have told you in a summary form and get back to me in the next class. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.